BMW rolled with a handful of improvements to its base model RnineT. The updated engine meets EU5 emission standards and the electronics suite delivers more safety and ride quality features right off the showroom floor. New suspension components boost comfort as well to finish out the improvements for the RnineT model. The Boxer twin engine in the RnineT sports a classic design that fits quite well with the rest of the build. It maintains the large central case and opposed twin configuration that have always marked Beamer's signature engine style, but aesthetics saw a bit of an improvement with redesigned heads, valve covers and throttle bodies that change the look. Quite oversquare the mill runs a 101mm bore and 73mm stroke to give it a total displacement of 1170 cc and a relatively hot 12:1 compression ratio that will put you at the premium pump every time. Power output in the RnineT is a claimed 109 horsepower at 7,250 revolutions per minute with 85.5 pound-feet of torque at an even 6 grand. If you're thinking that's one pony less than last year, you'd be correct, but this loss is the price to pay to make the MY21 engine meet the EU5 emission requirements. The catalyst in the exhaust contributes to clean emissions too. It's primarily an air-cooled engine with newly redesigned cooling fins to deal with some of the waste heat. It also rocks an oil cooler that takes care of the rest for double thermal protection overall and targeted protection for the engine's very lifeblood. Dual overhead cams actuate the poppets in the redesigned 4 valve heads with a 39mm intake valve diameter and 33mm exhaust. A hydraulically actuated clutch couples engine power to the 6-speed transmission with a shaft-type final drive and a drive ratio that turns out an RnineT top speed that's governed at 125 miles per hour. As for the new electronics package, it bundles traction control with a pair of variable power delivery ride modes as part of the stock equipment and offers the Ride Modes Pro in the optional equipment list. From the BMW factory in Berlin, the base model RnineT is the very epitome of the word essential with absolutely nothing in the way of the superfluous to weigh it down. Technically it's billed as a roadster, but the sporty profile, somewhat relaxed rider's triangle and old-school engine design call to mind the standard cruiser models of the 70s. Not much left to the imagination as there is nothing in the way of body enclosures. The pared-down front fender makes a custom connection to go with the laced blackout wheels. It pulls double duty with specially shaped supports that steer wind and road grime around the swept inner tube area of the inverted front forks. A Cyclops headlight housing makes another classic connection with its round shape and blackout housing treatment, but the light itself is thoroughly modern. It boasts LED projectors for good, two-way visibility day or night and delivers improved cornering safety, particularly at night. The cornering light feature illuminates the curve ahead, so you can see where you're going instead of where you are pointing. The LED tech spreads to the disappearing turn signals that, due to the blackout treatment and adjacent black components, tend to be rather inconspicuous when unlit to visually minimize the hang-on gear. That focus continues into the pared-down tail section and rear mudguard with LEDs to finish out the turn, tail, tag lights. The stock saddle comes with a small P-pad, subframe mount, flip-up foot pegs complete the pillion gear, but if you ride solo you can remove the rear of the subframe area in favor of a Cafe Racer-style tail fairing. The dearth of body panels on the RnineT leaves the tubular frame well exposed and visible to the world, but what isn't as readily obvious is how it's all put together. A single front frame section and 3-part rear frame use the engine as a stressed member to complete the structure and lend it its final rigidity. Inverted, 46mm forks float the front end with adjustable preload and damping values. The central spring strut out back comes with handwheel adjusted preload as well as a rebound damping adjuster and a travel-dependent damping feature. Components at both ends come with 4.7 inches of travel, which should be plenty for riding in civilized areas. The steering head establishes a 26.8-degree rake angle with 4.3 inches of trail to make it relatively eager in the corners, though you can forget about dragging a knee around a bend. It just ain't that kind of bike. Laced wheels add another classic touch. They have a high-speed, Z-rated rubber in a 120/70ths ahead of a 180/55ths. The brakes mean serious business with a pair of 320mm discs and 4-piston Brembo anchors up front opposite a twin-piston caliper and 265mm disc. Beamer moves its ABS Pro and dynamic brake control features out of the optional equipment list and onto the stock package for double-layer protection against loss of traction due to overbraking. The DBC works through throttle modulation. Not only are there two separate systems between ABS and DBC, but they work entirely independently from each other to help safely brake to the max.